Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's TheSketchMonkey here. I'm back at Winslow BMW to have a look at this 2024 BMW X7 M60i. This is a beast of an SUV. We're going to talk more about the powertrain when we take this for a drive. We're also going to talk about the facelifted version, which this is. As you can see, we have the split headlights here. So we're going to play around with the front end and see if we can maybe redesign it into something more traditional BMW. In the front end, we're also of course going to have a look at the stately side view, which is proper for an X7, and the rear view as well, before we jump into the interior. And last but not least, we need to see what this powertrain is all about, so we're going to take it for a drive. Before we go in deep on this design, let's have a look at the spec and tech of the 2024 BMW X7 xDrive 60i. You have a twin-turbo 4.4-liter V8 with a 48-volt hybrid system, and this in total puts out 523 horsepower and 553 pound-feet of torque, connected to an 8-speed automatic transmission. 0 to 60 is completed in 3.8 seconds in this big house on wheels. Fuel economy sits at around 21 city, 25 highway. Base price for this X7 is around $115,000. All right, so here's the thing. I want to hear your opinion on this design that we have in the front end, specifically with the graphics having the daytime running lights being separated from the main headlights down here. For me personally, I think it suits the X7 the best to have this integration. Not so sure about the i7 and the new 7 Series, for example. It does look pretty good there as well, but I just think this higher height that we have in the X7 just feels more natural to have this integration of the lights graphics in the front end, and it doesn't bother me as much as it does in the 7 Series. So I do want to do a couple of redesigns to the front end of this car, and that is by morphing this element with this element, shrink them in together and see what that would look like. I think it would look pretty cool. This being all blacked out, we do have the black graphics down at the bottom as well, but when we have it in a different spec, these become silver. So what I want to do here is also play around a little bit maybe to redesign the lower part of this to make it, this being the X7, I don't want to have it to be overstyled, and the lower part of this kinda is borderline overstyled, so I think we can do a couple of changes to the lower end as well. Overall, as I said, this split headlight design that we have in the X7, I think it suits the proportions of this car. We also need to talk about these big kidneys that we have in the front end. I think they aren't as low as they are on the 4 Series and M3, for example, and M4. I think they look pretty good. This grille, when you compare it to, for example, Genesis grills today and other brands that have a massive grille in the front end, these grills are actually not that huge. And I think it helps that they're black because they melt into the rest of the car here. You have the camera mounted right here in between the kidneys, and these are also active shutters. So now that the car is off, these are closed, but when you need to breathe, it open up those nostrils, and these slots open up as well to boost in some more air into the engine. Coming around to the side view of the new 2024 X7, in this case, we have the 22-inch wheels. I think they look good in 22. You can even get this with 23-inch wheels, which is probably what I would go for if you know me, even though it's going to reduce the comfort and make it a little bit harsher on the road. I don't care, 23s look great with these proportions. You have 315 width in the rear and 275 width in the front end, both front and rear being 22-inch wheels. Now, I personally think that this X7 has a gorgeous side view because it is the big brother, it is the biggest SUV on sale, and it does have one shoulder line that goes from, look at this, the corner, just like we want, the corner of the taillight into across the entire car, and then fades into the bumper, and then kind of fades in the front end. I wish it has some connection to the graphics in the front end as well, but overall I think the proportions of this thing, it has this squared off proportions that you want in the big brother of an SUV, and I think BMW did a great job with the side view of the X7. However, the problem you have when you have a car like this that's black with the black wheels, I like to see the line flow and the surface treatment of a car and the wheel design themselves. So personally, I don't think I would go for black here. I would kind of like this in silver. There is the big brother. It's supposed to be a little bit stately. Dark gunmetal silver with some nice non-black wheels. I think that would make the design just pop a little bit more than this. But if we're into black, I mean, this is the spec to go. One specific line that I love on the X7 side view before we go into the rear is this line right here. I love how it swoops up in this area and then comes down, creating this almost cut in the body here with a nice chamfer. Nice little styling detail on the Big Brother X7. Even though it is the bigger one, you can still have a little bit of fun as designers. Before we go in and talk about the rear end design of the X7, there are a couple of cool features back here. For example, you have this button on the side of the key fob. If you hold this in, it's going to open the top part of the rear end. So if you want to just load easier and lighter stuff, you can just do that by opening this part. And then if you want to, you can also open the lower section. And in addition to that, if you have some really heavy stuff, you can always press this lowering button that is going to lower the entire car down into an even lower loading height. So I think that's a really cool idea by BMW to have a system like this. And then when you're done, you just press this button up here and it's gonna close everything for you automatically. Just beautiful. All right, so let's talk about the rear end design here. What I like about the X7 is that it's continuous. It has a congruent design from the front, side, and rear. So this stateliness that we have in the front and in the side, it also continues back here with these simple LED taillights that stretches in a very nice way, same thickness all around, not too dynamic. That's not what we want in the Big Brother X7 anyway. So I think the graphic layout here, in addition to all these horizontal lines, it adds to this proper luxury feel that you have of the X7. One thing I do like that is blacked out on this specific X7 right here is the tailpipes. So you have these quad tailpipes. They're actually quad exhaust, like proper functional exhaust with this framing to them. So you have two on this side and two on the other side, creating this nice symmetric feel to this. Almost looks a little bit like this could be the rear end of an X7. This is the M60i, but it has the M package on it, but it's not a proper M car. But somehow this lower section makes you think that it actually could be. Welcome to the interior of the 2024 BMW X7 M60i. And as you can see, we do have the new treatment of the dash here with the 12.3-inch gauge cluster, 14.9-inch infotainment screen. I'm getting used to this now, and I think it's starting to suit new BMWs, even though I wish we did have a housing for the gauge cluster, but it looks like we're not going to go back to that, so I might as well start to appreciate what's going on here. So the integration is still what we have in other BMWs. You still have this bracket here, which I wish was hidden, and the designer took care of this in a better way, the engineers as well. Moving down further on the center console here, this is a new design treatment of BMW. You have a lot of these hexagonal and sharp angles in the interior design. You have that in the XM a lot as well, and it kind of goes into the X7, the 2024 model as well. And you have these knobs for the vent. So the vent is situated above here in a slot and down here in two smaller slots, and you angle your air and turn them on and off by twisting these things. It feels pretty good, but it's not very easy to see where the air is gonna come out. So I would prefer to just have a simple air vent here with, you can see all the vent itself moving. I can't see anything moving when I'm moving these knobs. I guess you just have to feel your way as to where the air is coming out. Further down, we do have the radio controls, the tuning, and the volume knob, but we don't have any buttons whatsoever for the climate control. I have to go in to the system itself and then figure out how to adjust everything here. I just wish, as you know, that we did have a simple design and layout. Right now, for example, the fan is blowing really hard, so I want to just quickly just turn it down with the knob instead of having to think, you know, and go into the screen here and the software to figure out how to turn this down. But I think I'm turning it down now. It just doesn't sound like it. It's still on very hard. So, you know, for me, it just makes it more complicated. I never understood the reasoning for having a system like this when you can just have a couple of buttons down here. But I've talked about that so much in other videos that I'm not going to talk a lot about it in this video. Down here we do have wireless charging under this Beautiful piano black cover, which looks pretty nice. You also have two cup holders that are both heated and cooled, so you can have your drinks stay the same temp for longer with these buttons down here. Pretty fancy stuff. You have a normal USB port down here as well. Looking at this area here, instead of having this big gear shifter here for the drive select, if you want to go in reverse neutral drive, you have this sort of crystal looking thing, which looks very fancy as well, and also has this sharp chiseled diamond look to it, like we have in the rest of the interior. This is also illuminated. I really like that. Illuminated strips here, LEDs, and then you have the M badge illuminated. You have a couple of buttons here on the side for the drive modes, for the traction control, the engine start-stop button. Instead of having a silver or red button, it's now also this crystal diamond shape, looking pretty sweet. If you want, you can adjust whatever you want here with the touchscreen, or as you know, you can use this dial to figure out what it is you want to do. I definitely think this is a lot harder to use than just using the touch paddle, but again, the easiest thing would to just be have a strip of controls down here. Anyway, moving further down here, you have the ride control, so you can adjust the ride height with just this toggle here, which is pretty sweet. And you have the typical by now split armrest for BMWs with a USB-C port and a little LED lighting in there, so you can make sure you pick the right markers when you're ready to grab that pad and start sketching. The steering wheel feels typical BMW. You have the nice M stitching on the inside, you have the M logo at the bottom, this having the M Sport package, and the paddles as well, which feels similar to the, it feels almost exactly the same like the M8 I just drove, and I love the feeling of BMW's shift paddles right now, have a very distinct tick to it. On the side here, you have the same treatment of the vents like you have in the middle, but you can actually see here where the vents are angled, and this is the same feeling I want to have like we have in the sides, just apply it onto these middle vents here. Up top, you have a massive panoramic sunroof, which is going all the way back to the headrests of the second row passengers. In addition, you also have a sunroof for the third row, which is a lot smaller, of course, than this one right here. Looking at the seats, these are definitely more angled towards comfort and luxury. Long road trips. Doesn't have as much bolstering as normal M seats, which I think kind of suits an X7. This is not something you want to take up and you know, go on the track with exactly. So this feels right for the X7's interior, and you also have a big glove compartment here. The doors looking super nice and crisp with an LED strip that lights out at night, and you also have a combination of this industrial and metallic feel with the soft leather brown materials. So combining two worlds, the natural world with the industrial world. I like that in current BMWs. So with that said, we've talked about the front of the interior. Let's jump back in the second row and check out these captain seats. Okay, climbing into the rear seats of the X7, and I have plenty of space here. You have a small pocket down here. You have a little slider which hides a USB-C port, and down here in the middle you have the third zone of climate control settings for, but it's actually split, so you have 4 zones of climate here. You have 1 for the driver in the front and for the passenger, and 2 back here as well, which is pretty nice. Very simple layout with the vents back here, looking more traditional than up front. You also have 2 USB-Cs down here and a 12 volt, a couple of cup holders, and these fancy armrests for the captain's chairs. You also have a pretty decent sized third row in this X7. I think I could probably fit back there, but I think it's more angled towards kids and teenagers. We've talked about the exterior design, we did a couple of tweaks to the front, and we've talked about the interior. Now it's time to fire this 4.4 liter twin turbo V8 up, and let's hear what this sounds like. I'm also gonna put it in sport to make the exhaust as loud as possible. Okay guys, we're taking the 2024 BMW X7 M60i for a short drive. What do we have under the hood here? We have 523 horsepower, 553 pound-feet of torque. I have it now in Sport Plus, just to kind of get a feel of the sportiest setting of this car. It's a twin-turbo 4.4-liter V8, but they also added a 48-volt hybrid system in this specific X7 M60i, which I think is good because it's going to get more power, but it's not going to affect the fuel economy too much. 0 to 60 takes about 3.8 seconds in a big SUV like this. It's just incredible how the engineers, specifically designers, we can design whatever we want to make look cool, but to actually make a big SUV like this go this fast, that's all engineering. It feels really planted on the ground as well. It doesn't feel too stiff, even with the, or too rough on the road, even with the 22-inch wheels, which even more makes me want to go with the 23-inch. If these are the 22-inch, 1 inch more, I don't think it's going to add too much bumpiness in for this car. So I would definitely personally go with the 23-inch wheels. You know, like I said, when I drove the BMW X5, for example, BMW just somehow knows how to make all their cars feel like sports cars. It doesn't matter what type of package it is. This is their biggest SUV, and it definitely drives. You know, this could be a sports car if you didn't know what you were driving, the package of what you were driving. It feels almost like the smaller BMWs. Of course, in the corners, you're gonna feel the weight of this thing, you know, moving the car around to the sides. But other than that, everything else in the driving experience just feels almost sports car-like, and that's what I love about modern BMWs. I do like the 8-speed automatic that we have here as well. Right now, I'm in 8th gear at 45 miles per hour, just sipping on that gas. Or you can go into Eco Pro, even better, and put it in automatic, and you'll be good to go for a very long trip on one tank. Thanks again to Winslow BMW here in Colorado Springs for providing this X7 for me to review for you guys today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And if you're interested in this brand new BMW X7, just go to winslowbmw.com and check out this car and their full inventory. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next video.